Music Matters. Have. Appreciate you guys doing this.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. You guys have had like a busy day. I appreciate you fitting me in the schedule.
Very busy.
You played 2 shows today?
2 shows. Yeah.
Where are they at?
So the first one was at the New Farm in San Francisco, and the second one was at a fundraiser in Berkeley.
Oh, cool. What was the fundraiser for?
It was for the Tuolumne River Trust.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah.
Watershed. Yeah, it's World Water Day, I think.
Today is?
I think so.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Could I like tilt this? And would you mind leaning when you
Yeah,
talk into it?
sorry.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, that's sick. What the hell? So you had one in SF and then one in Berkeley, you said?
Yeah, so now we've done a full circle through the bay today.
Yeah, literally, because
Yeah.
this is, how far out of San Francisco is this? I've never actually been to Mill Valley.
It's only like
14
it's like
14
15
miles, yeah.
or 14 miles, so like 15 minutes or so, but we've been over all 3 bridges today.
I was just
Jesus.
thinking
Yeah.
that earlier.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, hitting all 3 bridges.
All
Yes.
the tolls.
Uh-huh,
you know?
all
Oh
the
my
bridge tolls.
God, yeah. Those are tax write-offs.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I literally don't think I've ever done that in a day. I don't think I've ever been through over, so what, the Golden Gate, the Bay, and then Richmond?
Yeah.
All, damn, that's impressive.
Yeah.
You guys been playing like a bunch of shows recently, right?
Yeah, a lot.
So are you just pretty much taking everything that comes to you, or like?
We're starting, I think, to be a little bit more discerning because it's been
Uh-huh.
a little bit exhausting.
Yeah.
But yeah, most things, I think we really only started playing shows at all essentially really in December of 2021. So we're like, let's go. Let's just take them all
Yeah.
and just play a ton. And now I think that we've gotten out there a little bit more. We don't have to like do every single like Tuesday and Sunday show and everything. But
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's usually how it goes. I feel like when you get in that circuit and you start playing like a lot of local shows, especially in the Bay, people just kind of know your name, and then you get invited to play at all kinds of venues, and then it's just like this big circle. And I mean, on one hand, I totally understand how that could be exhausting, but it is a lot of opportunities.
yeah, totally. And I mean, it's super, super fun. And I've been surprised how quickly we've been able to play so many shows and like get to know so many people and all that.
I think people underrate like in the age of social media, like how quickly you can grow from just doing shows. I still think it's like the best way to establish like a real audience and a real fan base, and then just grow with that. Because I mean, in the age of, not saying that like TikTok or anything isn't a great way to grow an audience, because it definitely is. You guys have done well on TikTok and stuff, right?
Yeah, but I mean, that started with live videos on TikTok.
Oh, yeah,
videos
see,
from our
exactly.
show. So just getting like little video clips from our shows and posting them on TikTok and Instagram has helped us grow a lot really quickly.
Yeah. So when did you guys like originally start? Actually, before we do that, do you want to run through like well, let's do intros real quick. If you guys want to run through, explain who each and every one of you guys are and what you do in the band, etc.
Yes.
Yeah, totally. Let's go around.
Oh, yeah. I'm Cameron. I play drums. What? Oh,
If you want to lean into it, yeah. Give it the lean.
my bad. I'm Cameron. I play the drums.
I'm Grant. I am the guitar player.
I'm Elliot. I do bass.
He also engineers and mixes
Yeah,
and masters.
don't undersell yourself. Don't
I
undersell
do bass.
yourself.
I produce and I mix.
He does a lot.
I'm Maddie. I sing, I write the songs, and co-produce with Elliot.
And I'm Connor. I'm on the keyboard, a little synth here and there.
Throwing a little synth bit.
Yeah.
So how did you guys originally meet and then start writing? Because Maddie, so I'm 100% positive and I understand everything exactly. So you write everything, right? And then you bring it to the band setting and then you guys produce stuff together, or how's that work?
So we come up with like live versions with the band, but a lot of the production so far has just been mostly me and Elliot. Grant was on a little bit of the last EP on two of the songs that
Two of
ended
the
up being
songs, yep.
Actually, I think everybody
published.
was.
Yeah, and then Connor and Cam were also on each one song last time. But so yeah, it originally started with just me and Elliot. So a lot of the production so far has just been the two of us playing like everything.
Okay, so pretty much all the writing is done by you yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So did you, when you started writing these songs, was your intention to do them by yourself, produce them by yourself, perform by yourself, or where did the band come in?
Well, so we actually, Elliot and I started the project in quarantine in 2020, started producing then. We made a lot of songs and almost none of them got published. We published a few and then kind of went from there. And then basically once live shows became more of a possibility again, so last summer we started forming the band. We had previously already been in a different band with Grant. Connor we've known since childhood, and then Cam we met on Vamper, the app Vamper.
You guys are another band that met. That's crazy.
I know.
You're the second band I've met that. Carpal Tunnel was another band. Them
Oh
friends
yeah,
with.
I've heard that.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the homies. They met on Vamper too. That was like how I originally learned what Vamper was, and I didn't know that people were like meeting on this app.
I didn't either. Someone recommended it to me, and I was like, "This is never gonna work," because we needed a drummer, and Cam was the first person that I talked to, and also the last person that I talked to. I still get like dozens of requests on there a day that I don't even look at because like it was perfect.
We already have our Cam.
There's a lot of weird people on Vamper.
Yeah.
You really are.
We found our perfect weird one over here.
The thing is, it's designed to look like Tinder, and I feel like a lot of people just use it as Tinder.
Do you actually? Is it like you're swiping?
Yeah,
you're
No
swiping.
way.
So you like swipe like left or
Yeah,
right,
no,
and it's like
but
But like
the
you could
exact
put your
thing.
settings like what genres you play and what
Yeah.
you like and what you
Okay, that's pretty cool.
So.
Yeah, when I was talking to Carpool about it, they told me they actually. So I guess they got on it in like the early days of the app, and then they like actually like met. So they ended up pitching their song to the guy, like the CEO of the app, and then he like flew them to LA to record it. So I guess it's like I didn't know
so funny.
like the Vamper world is like slowly becoming a thing to me. Like I had no idea. I was like, this is a cool
I
concept.
barely know anything about it. Like
Yeah.
literally, Cam's the first person I talked to on there, and then he came in. and We're like, great, he's great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done. I'm gonna never open the app again.
So there was nobody else that you like met that like didn't work.
No,
Wow.
not for this.
We've met a lot of
We've
people
met-
that have
we've
not
met a lot
worked.
of
Yeah.
But that's
previously
through.
that didn't work out, but that was a different thing. But
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Not Vamper.
but not through Vamper.
Yeah.
Vamper, man. Shout out Vamper. If Vamper's looking for sponsors, if you guys want to sponsor
I
Music
know.
Matters, let us
Please
know.
sponsor us.
Yeah, let us know. So you start writing that way. Do you remember? And I know like the way you guys came up. A lot of like your like your fan base and a lot of like what you do was from live performances and live shows. When did you first put that together and play your first show?
Our first show was at a house show in September of 2021. I think we played a show at Cam's house in October. We played like one other house show or something like that, I think.
That's
Maybe
the Fairy Bungalow?
The Fairy Bungalow
Yeah.
thing, and then we played at the chapel.
Oh,
So
That's quite the jump. Yeah.
Then it kind of then from there we've been playing a lot of stuff after that.
how was your like nerves going from a house show to playing at the chapel?
It was kind of crazy. I mean, the chapel's amazing. Everyone who
bet.
works there is so professional. The bands we played with Movements, and then a band called Bridgeway. Everyone was so nice, and it was awesome. But it was pretty crazy going from like backyards to like 500 people in a venue.
Well, we were worried that it was like a scam when we got.
Yeah,
when
no, I woke up and it
Maddie
was
got
just
the
an email, and it was like, "Hi, I'm the booker from the chapel. Can you come in next week?" And I was like, "This can't be real."
They
But
said
I-
come in like just to meet
like, or
them.
no,
or-
they're like, "Can you play this show?"
Oh.
And I was like, and I sent it to my parents. I was like, "Do you think this is a scam?" And they're like, "Well, if it was a scam, it would probably be like a huge venue." And
Yeah.
I was like, "I guess that's true. Like, I
a
don't
good
know why
point.
someone would say they're from the chapel." It's
Yeah, like a
scam.
mid-sized venue, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, I've been told that people have thought that we were a scam before. Like people have been like, "Wow, when you reached out for an interview, you reached out for a live session or whatever. We honestly thought you were like a scam."
Oh my god.
Do you still at all? I mean, I know you guys played a bunch of shows at this point, but do you get nervous before you play?
No, I don't usually, but unless like I don't know. So usually it's if like there's something that has gone awry already.
Yeah.
But
Sometimes, I mean, we're constantly putting in new songs to the set list, songs we're just working on. But even then, I feel like there's just like trust in one another. Like we kind of know how to play with each other, and I think even if we're playing a newer song, it seems to work out. So
yeah.
Was that an instant thing, or did it take a long time to like build that trust in one another? Do you guys have like almost unspoken cues now when you're jamming or playing a show?
I think to a certain
Totally.
degree. Well, I know the three of us have been playing together a lot longer too, so having that already there is
Mm-hmm.
helpful.
yeah, and then bringing in Connor and Cam, it was just really easy. It was a really easy transition for us. They just picked it up real quick. So
Yeah. When you play at a place like the vent or like the chapel, how did the sound there like compare to a house show? Because I've heard things about like the chapel and their sound that just like it's like incredible.
Yeah, it's insane.
The band that went on after us, I was just hearing them sound check, and I was just like, I heard their guitar, just like, it was the most insane thing I've ever heard. Like, it's just unlike any other sound check. It just like fills out it's a big room. It fills out everything. I was like, holy, like this is the big leagues. I was like, it was great.
Yeah, because that's got to be a pretty big step to make from like a house show to all
Yeah,
over the chat.
Yeah.
no, totally.
Have you guys so before Have and before you guys all got together, did you play? I know you said you three played music like together originally. Did you guys like have other musical projects before Have, or like how'd you first get into playing?
Oh, I did. I was in a bunch of bands before. Yeah, I was. I've been in a bunch of stuff as a drummer. Like you get thrown around. At one point, I was in like 4 projects.
Jesus.
But most recently, I was a part of Earthworm. We were like a smaller band, played like alternative rock and stuff. And I was also a part of Caliphobia, like a punk band. But yeah, it was pretty cool. I had a lot of fun doing those things.
How about the rest of you guys? Did you have like other musical projects before Have?
Also, I'm gonna jump in here. Have.
What was I saying?
Have. Have.
It's close.
Oh,
Like a little.
Is it Have?
No, it's Have.
Have?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's all good.
So,
It's okay.
You're good,
It's
you're
very,
good.
like, it's confusing.
What were you saying though?
So Connor, this was your first band, right? Technically,
well,
or
I was in like child bands.
Okay.
Like, Maddie's dad did like a band incubator for kids to like get them interested. So
My dad's
like,
a music teacher.
so that's how my experience. I wasn't really in like a
Wait,
actual
you weren't
band.
in Girls Plus Jack.
No,
were
I
you?
was not
Okay.
girl. I was not
I
Jack.
couldn't do that. Well, no. Oh, right. Of course, because everyone else is girls. Okay, never
But
mind.
yeah, I've always just been like a solo piano artist. And then y'all reached out to me. I'm like, oh god, like, and in the first practices we would have
You seemed
recordings.
nervous.
I was really nervous, and I would listen back to the recordings. I'm like, I'm so off, like just. But I was really grateful for the band because it really pushed my musicianship, and I'm like, all right, I will get better to kind of like not drop the ball and. Yeah, match the
doing
level of these
great.
other musicians.
Did you put stuff out by yourself?
Not like legitimately,
Uh-huh.
just kind of messed around, but I would like to kind of try.
this guy has a banging ass SoundCloud that people should listen
I
to.
do love
Okay, well, the
it.
SoundCloud,
I do
yeah.
love
I
it.
didn't even
I want to
know
put that out there. I want to put that out.
Some hyper pop.
Some hyper pop.
But you've done a lot of theater, which I feel like being like in a theater thing and being in a band, there's a similar like camaraderie. I think
Yeah.
I just like sense that from you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
performing on stage is not like I don't really get nervous at all before the shows.
Right.
And that comes from the theater you did before?
I would say so, yeah.
Oh, cool. I've heard like that from a lot of people who grew up like doing like drama or like theater type stuff. It's like it translates to the stage very well. Maddie, you've done dancing in the past, right? Or stuff like that?
But everyone thinks that.
Oh, really?
A tiny bit. I've done theater too. We were in the same theater program when we were in
Oh,
high school.
okay.
I was in a dance show during that too because they also thought I was a dancer. I'm not a trained dancer, but I got a little bit of training when I did that dance show when I was 16, which was terrifying because they were like, "You're a dancer," and I was like, "I'm not," and they're like, "Well, you're doing this anyway," and I was like, "Okay." But yeah, I feel like it really does translate. Yeah.
Do you guys think a lot of the traction like you've gotten since you haven't been together like all that long anyway, and you've like grown so much? It seems like since you started. Do you think a lot of that's come from like playing a lot of shows? Like, do you see like the same people returning to your shows as before? Like, have you built kind of a fan base in that way? Do you think?
I think we have a little bit, not like a ton. I think it's crazy how fast things have grown in general. I know the social media has grown a lot, which has like boosted the streams too.
Yeah.
And they're not totally connected, but we do like get some people coming back. But I think we put on a very lively show. I think a lot of us have performance backgrounds, and that really helps. Yeah.
So it just kind of gelled and happened to happen that way.
Yeah.
We're all kind of blown away by how fast like this has all kind of happened.
Definitely.
You know, I mean, from having the chapel to being our 4th
Yeah.
gig or something like
Yeah.
that to getting the streams that we're getting. It's just we're not really sure how it really happened, but like it's been a lot of fun.
Does that give you motivation to like keep going? Does that make you want to go even harder? Like seeing that support?
Yeah, I mean, I'm
definitely.
surprised, but at the same time, I will say I probably spend like 16 hours a day in some form working on this project every single day.
Sure.
So for me, like it is results that I can see and make sense and like go together. All the different things like getting the social media following, playing the live shows, working on all of that stuff, working on the music, obviously. But at the same time, it's still really gratifying and really cool to see it working.
Yeah, I bet, especially when you put all that work into it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's beautiful when you go and you put your everything into something and you see the result come out of it, because it's like you can try to do something for so long, you know what I mean? And eventually you could work on something the same way you're working on it for 10 years and have it not work.
Yeah.
It's just about like understanding what you're doing and learning what works and learning what doesn't. What do you think, like putting all that work in every single day, what do you think you've like seen the biggest improvements on?
I mean, I think with social media, social media is crazy, and it's just gotten to the point where all I have to do is just post anything, and it just, like, whatever, the algorithms will just serve it to just so many people. And it's really weird to watch that, but it took a while to get there, so it's been interesting to see, like, working on figuring out, like, what works on social media to getting to that point that then, like, Instagram or whatever will just serve it to, like, 40,000 people every single time. So that, I think that has been something, the biggest thing that I like had to work on, thought about how am I doing this, and like wanted to really improve on, and then seeing those results. So, and when I say work, I mean, that's probably the thing that takes up the most of my time, is just like managing all of the social media stuff.
Yeah, that's obviously, it's super important. I mean, like it's kind of like an unwritten rule, or like an unwritten like idea too in the industry now, because it's like, it's not really, it's such a new thing, you can't really take classes on like how exactly the TikTok algorithm works, or like how you understand all these things, because it's such a new thing. But I mean, it seems like the bands and the artists that have like figured it out have reaped massive benefits from it.
Yeah, it's really helpful. I think it's helped us a lot.
When you like first started posting on TikTok and stuff, were you guys getting no views?
I mean, yeah, the first like several videos would be like just 20 views or something. But now it's becoming more consistent. I just went through a phase of kind of trying to get rid of a lot of the people who were following me, because there were just a lot of men who just did nothing but hit on me, and I was like, okay, I need to like change this somehow. So then the numbers kind of went down while I kind of just reconfigured what I was doing, and now it's like rising again. So it's cool that you can do that too. I was really worried. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna be stuck in this algorithm like niche forever.
Dudes,
but I'm turning it around, so I'm stoked about that.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. You could like almost like curate your own audience in a lot of ways.
Totally. Yeah.
That's what's cool about TikTok too, is like you reach like this mass conglomerate of people, but eventually like when you get in the algorithm, it understands your niche. It starts pushing your videos to like a very specific groups of people that like, you probably will want to view your stuff, people who are just more interested in obviously the music.
Yeah.
Where, out of all the places you guys have played so far, I mean, today it sounds like you played at two pretty like interesting and crazy venues. What are like your favorite spots that you've played at so far?
I've enjoyed this warehouse in Bayview. I don't even think it has a name. It was just such a cool vibe.
That was like an art space.
It was like an art space, super cool. They had like half mannequins all over places, disco balls. Such a cool vibe.
The audience was really engaged there too.
It sounds like the Albany Bulb almost. Yeah.
Kind of got that vibe. Like there's of course, with any good venue, is like a little bit of like a sketchy area.
Yeah.
It's like Bayview.
This one was interesting.
But like, it's just like a really good vibe in terms of like space and like, just pandemic. It's just been like such a drought, and then we have this really nice event. Yeah. I think that's something to do with the pandemic, that like you didn't know you were grateful for, like live events.
Oh yeah.
And now you're like, whoa.
I realized that over the pandemic so much just by not going to shows, just realizing how much I not only went to shows, but how much I valued them. Like, it was just such a crazy feeling to go back to going to shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you, so I mean, since you guys like formed in the pandemic, was that like a fear when you first started, like not being able to play, or did you were just like pretty much waiting and planning for when you were able to play again?
Yeah, I mean, it was really strange. We didn't get to play at all for so long, and I think it was hard to kind of get started in a certain sense, at least definitely locally. I had no local audience. It was all like people in like far off places, which was kind of spread out and strange. So being able to curate that local audience has really helped a lot. And plus, playing live is so fun, and it's so like visceral, and I think you can really connect with people too. So
have you only played in the Bay so far, or where else have you played?
We played in San Luis Obispo, and then actually next week we're doing a little tour going to LA, and then back to San Luis Obispo, and then to Santa Cruz.
Oh, wow. How'd you get all those shows lined up?
The LA one was good, but we've had planned for a while, and then the last second, Cam pulled through and somehow booked the other 2 shows, so that we could make it a full tour.
So
makes
now
the
it's a
trip a lot
tour
more
instead of
worth
just
it.
a 6-hour drive to a gig or whatever.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, I get some more shows on here, man. I'll
Yeah.
You worked
nail.
some magic, because
He
I
did,
tried
he
to
did.
desperately email some venues, places, and no one got back to me. I don't
I
think. I feel like most people just don't open their email for like 6 months. I bet in 6 months they'll be like, "Hey, come on through."
Yeah.
Like I hit up a bunch of people like on Instagram and like through word of mouth, like, oh, I don't know, but you should try checking this out or calling these people or checking out these bars. And I like called a bunch of like people and bars and venues about places, and I was like, hopefully we'll find something, and we did. So
I think it's
things that
super
worked out.
valuable to like start to understand that like these venues are looking for acts every single weekend, you know. And it's like if you have like some sort of reach, some sort of pull, and you can like reach out, and a lot of the times they'll be okay with you playing because they need acts.
Yeah. I think the funny thing about our growth when we started trying to plan a tour, and at that time I think we had 1,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, and probably a lot of people opened that email and then closed it. And by the time Cam was calling them, we had like 15,000. So like only a month later or something, which is hilarious. But that might have also helped a little bit when they could look us up, and we were like literally 15 times the size we were a month ago.
Yeah. I mean, that's like a kind of, it's almost a sad thing that like venues will open your stuff up, see your monthly listeners, and despite the quality of your music, despite the quality of your live presence, if you have less than like 2,000 or 3,000, they'll just close the email.
Totally. It makes sense. I mean, they want to make money. They don't want to make a bad investment, I guess. But that's what's been, I guess, crazy about the growth in the numbers. Like on every social media platform, including like Spotify and everything, we've just like grown by up to 15 times in the last like month or 2 months or something.
Has that been overwhelming at all?
Yeah. I have like 500 unread messages on my phone because I just can't keep up with anything. It's really bad, yeah.
And it's also a whole, like, I would imagine that's just such a big adjustment.
At first it was weird, and now I just kind of get used to like opening anything and there's just hundreds of notifications and hundreds of messages, and I'm like, okay, maybe it's bad. I can just ignore it now with no qualms and be like, I don't know, someone might need me, but I really can't. I couldn't, like, if someone comments something and tags me, if 10 minutes later, it's so far gone, it won't let me scroll to go find it anymore in the notification. So it's like, I do my best, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, as people start to get bigger, like, that's why people just don't open their messages. Like, it's like impossible.
It's hard. Maddie's done, like, just an awesome, Maddie and Elliot, honestly, have just done such a good job with social media, TikTok, Instagram. Like, that is the reason why we're at where we are today. So, yeah, I mean, it's just been really fun to reap the benefits and play at these play at these cool places. So
It's a lot of things mixed together because I've been to theater school, I've been to film school, I'm a film school dropout, whatever, blah blah blah.
Where'd you go to school?
In Paris, which is a long story, but yeah, and I had to do modeling school and play. So I feel like I'm mixing all of those things together in order to like form the social media.
How old are you?
I'm 24.
So, wow. Okay, so you've like had all those experiences, and now you're just. So when did you first start playing music? Like first originally start writing?
Oh, I mean when I was like 9 or something.
Yeah.
But
so
like,
was the plan? The plan like out of high school and stuff wasn't to pursue music?
No, it wasn't. I did play shows a little bit in high school and stuff like that, but I just really wanted to go very far away, so I applied to a school in Paris, and then I just took off for a couple years, basically, and then continued doing random stuff for a while after that, too. I don't know, I just felt like I was like, music's impractical. Like, why would I do that? You know, so many people are doing it, and then eventually, I guess in the pandemic, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it now. So, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, the way I kind of look at that is like somebody has to do it, so why not you? You know what I mean? It's like, of course, like the idea is impractical. Of course, the idea is like a 1 in a million shot, but somebody's got to be the one.
Who are you, my parents?
No, but I mean, I think I also realized I don't know what else I would do. And I mean, the funny thing is when I went to art school or whatever, like my professors literally told me, they're like, you know, like, you should just drop out. Like, you're good. No, they're like, you're good at what you're doing. Like, you shouldn't even be here. Just go do something else. Like, go do something creative. And I was like,
Okay.
Okay, sure. So I just dropped out,
Yeah.
and then I didn't do anything creative for a couple more years. But like, so I was like, well, I guess if I don't know, I may as well. I don't know what else I literally don't know what else I would do.
Yeah.
I guess.
It's cool they were honest about that.
Yeah, I was surprised. My first professor was this Argentinian filmmaker. She was so cool, and she took me out to coffee after class one day, and she was like, "You need to leave this school. Like, this is not worth your time." And I was like, "What? You're my teacher. What are you talking about?" But yeah, she was really, really cool.
I feel like American professors would never do that.
No, going to school in France is a trip. You're just like
Yeah.
you go out to bars with your professors, and you go to their houses. They cook dinner. I don't know. It's funny.
Whoa.
Every school event, they just ply you with alcohol. Like I was.
Because it's 18, right?
Yeah, you're 18. So like I was a tutor, and they just like set a bottle of champagne down, and they'd be like, okay, now like help people write their thesis, and I was like. Okay, like I don't know, it was wild.
I have a friend who's he's in France right now. He's teaching English to kids right now, and he was just texting me the other day, telling me about how like it's crazy how school there is like it's emphasized, but it's emphasized in a practical way, whereas like in America, it's emphasized as if it's the only option.
Mm-hmm, totally.
And I don't know. I feel like there's so many people, so many creatives who like they're pushed into school, but it's like they're like a square peg and they're trying to shove themselves into like a round hole. Like it doesn't work. It doesn't fit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense. So it's like in America, I think there's a lot of negative that comes out of emphasizing school as the only option after high school. We don't talk about trade school. We don't talk about things like, you can go to the military, you can do, there's so many options, but we don't talk about like if you don't go to UC Berkeley or UCLA, like you're never going to be successful.
Absolutely. I barely was even able to finish high school. I have like raging ADHD that was undiagnosed until I was 20, and at that point I'd already dropped out of college, and I was like, oh, that explains a lot. But yeah, I mean, I felt horrible about myself for so long because I was like, I can't handle school. Like I can't sit in a room. I have to be like outside all the time. So, I mean, but now I'm like, oh, I have plenty of skills that I can use in different ways, but just like school itself and what they had me doing it felt impossible.
Yeah, and then it's like it begs the question, did you fail school or did school fail you?
Well, yeah.
Good question.
Yeah. Because it's like I can totally relate to that. Like growing up, like I was almost the same way. I mean, I have ADHD. I couldn't sit still. I was tapping my fingers. I couldn't. It was like I couldn't. I don't know. I felt uncomfortable unless I was listening to music, unless I had headphones in, and it was like growing up that made me feel like stupid. It almost felt like because I wasn't successful in school or I wasn't like pursuing something that was like collegial or like academic that I was stupid. And it's like you grow up and then it builds these insecurities, but it's like I think till after high school it's very valuable for you to realize that it doesn't mean you're stupid. It just means school wasn't for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's hilarious that like I felt like I couldn't handle being in a classroom or like just following simple directions would make my brain just explode. Yeah, I've literally like traveled around the world by myself like 3 times over when I was like 18, 19, 20 with like, and that was fine. I could like navigate that easily, and yet just like doing math homework is impossible.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I might be smart, just not like the way that I was supposed to be. You know what I mean?
Was that scary? Like when you were 18 and 19, just like, so you just didn't, so you fully had the intention of just studying abroad. Like that was always the idea?
But yeah, I mean, I always wanted to, I didn't really want to go to college, but that was definitely an expectation. And I had said to my parents I wanted to go abroad, and my mom was not into it. So I just kind of applied basically secretly. And then I got a scholarship, and I was like, well, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I mean, I studied there 2 years, and then I traveled around a lot after that too, and was doing all kinds of weird stuff for a long time.
Did that influence your music in any way?
Every song is about all of that. Yeah.
Really?
Totally.
That's incredible. Would you ever want to go back there and play shows or stuff or tour?
Oh yeah, definitely. All my friends live in Europe. Like every
cool.
close friend I have still lives in Europe. So
just people you met through school and stuff?
Yeah, totally.
So I know you mentioned that like obviously like you'd go out to lunch and stuff with your teachers, like it's a very different atmosphere. Yeah. What were like the main differences between like going to like American public school versus like going to a college in like Europe?
I mean, it's super different. I think that it's almost like you were saying, I definitely in France, there's really a separation between work and life or school and life. They're really not intertwined, and like, I just remember like you can't be like eating, if you're walking down the street eating a sandwich, people will make fun of you. They're like, bon appetit. Because like if you're gonna eat lunch, you should take an hour for lunch and sit down and like enjoy your lunch. And so like that was like it's a different mindset. So it's like you're supposed to live your life, and then you go and you do your work or you do school or whatever. But they're really your work is your life, or school is your life. But there it's like it's something you do, but your life is outside of it. So I think that's the biggest distinction, which worked way better for someone like with ADHD, especially too, being like, okay, like I don't have to value myself just on how I'm doing in school. Like I'm supposed to like go out with my friends and have a good time, and my professors can be my friends or whatever.
See, that's so crazy because, like, in America, we'd act like that's ridiculous, but it's definitely so much of a more healthy way to live. Like,
yeah, definitely.
Like, I would just imagine, like, there must be, like, for example, I'm Italian, and I've never been to Italy, but my I have this regular at work, and I serve this guy all the time, and he did a similar thing to you. Like, after high school, he just, like, traveled abroad and, like, lived in Italy for a couple of years, and he was telling me the other night how in Italy, like, you go to, so if you work, right, so you go to work, and then everybody between the hours of like 1 and 3, they just everybody leaves work, like, and all the stores shut down, everything. You go home and you like eat lunch with your family.
And you sleep.
You take a nap. And then it's like, it's crazy to me in America that we would laugh at that idea, because that seems like such a more practical way to live.
Yeah, it's so funny. I mean, like, in most places in Europe, like, nothing's open on Sunday either. Like,
Oh,
if I
wow.
would forget, which I would all the time, to buy groceries on Saturday, I just, like, wouldn't eat on Sunday. I'd wake up and I'd go, oh, there's nothing I can do. Like, let me see what I can find, because everything is closed. But there's something really nice about that's just like basically everyone takes their Sunday off. You take the evenings off. Everything closes really early too, except for like bars. But yeah, it's
But
super
that's
different.
like, I think there's something so beautiful about that. Like, I think that, I don't know, I just think that'd be a healthier way to live. So when you came back from Europe, was the idea like, okay, I have all this inspiration now, I'm guns a-blazing gonna go into music, or did that take a little bit?
No, it took a while. I moved to Santa Barbara for a while, and I was trying to go to community college. I was trying to go back to school and working, and I was pretty miserable. And then the pandemic hit, and then I had nothing to do, and that I think really took me back into a state like of really daydreaming, and that's where the creativity comes from me, is being able to like, time doesn't exist. I'm just like floating around endlessly in my own world, and so getting back to that made me feel able to like create again.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I would imagine like the different and heightened perspective you have from an experience like that coming home. Did you view everything differently?
Oh yeah, coming back from living abroad. Oh, it's trippy. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I lived through a lot of weird, like, or just crazy world events while I was there too.
That was during the whole
Like terrorist attacks,
riot
riots,
thing.
like just all kinds. Everything that went down in France, I was there. So, I mean, not everything, but there was a lot that happened. So it was just really bizarre coming back for sure. But I mean, I feel like now it all feels meshed now, but it took a long time.
Yeah, I can imagine. So what's your, from beginning to end, what is your creative process usually like when you start a song? So you start and you write like all the parts and lyrically, and then you bring it to the band, or like how's that process usually ensue?
Yeah, I mean, I write really quickly. If I'm in the right headspace, I can write really quickly, either with guitar or piano, and usually just all kind of comes out at once. I might refine it a little bit, and then depending on what like stage we're in, either I'll just bring it to Elliot and we'll start producing it, because usually I already know what I want everything to sound like, all the instruments and the production and everything. Or if we're more in like a playing live phase and we're not producing anything, then bring it into the band and then we start rehearsing it together. And I have some idea. I'm more distinct about what I want all the ideas to be when we're producing versus bringing into the band. It's like, okay, like, let's all feel it out. I'm like, but this needs to be like that, but like a little bit more feeling it out for how it'll work in a live setting.
So do you start with lyrics yourself, or do you play any instruments?
I play
keys,
piano and guitar.
Okay,
yeah.
so will you start writing on, with your guitar, with your piano, or do you start with lyrics?
I do them at the same time, actually.
Okay.
I just kind of start. But usually I think a lot of the lyrics already kind of existed somewhere, and there's just kind of like a bank of different lines and stuff that have existed for a long time, or there's a specific story I want to tell already that I already know is kind of there. But sometimes it just hits me when I'm walking around, so then I just sing the whole thing and record that in my phone and then write the chords behind it later. So it just depends.
Okay, that makes sense. So you understand like a lot of the theory and stuff. So you'll come in with like, oh, like these are the chords I want to have. This is the key I want this to be in, tempo, etc.
Yeah, all of that is that's all set. Yeah.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. And I mean, a lot of your songs, it's funny you mentioned like storytelling. Like a lot of them seem like stories to me. Like I think I think probably my favorite song that you guys have done is Fragile. I love that track so much. And a lot of that song, like I loved the inspiration behind that one, because a lot of that song, like it just spoke to me in a lot of ways.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, no, they're all stories, definitely. My brain is really non-linear, but like I'm definitely a storyteller first and foremost.
Do you write like anything outside of music? Like will you write poetry or anything?
I've written a lot of poetry. I don't do it as much now because I'm so much in music mode that if I start writing poetry, I'll probably end up just turning it into a song, or it just comes out as a song. But in the years where I wasn't really making music and I was traveling, I wrote so much poetry. And a lot of times I'm pulling lines from those and putting them in the songs now.
Oh wow, yeah, that's interesting. I think like a lot. I mean, I've heard of a lot of musicians I talk to say the exact same thing. Like they'll start with poetry, and then poetry translates into lyrics. So they'll start with like a story. Like they'll write just like a narrative tale and then translate that into a song. And it seems to me that probably be like a more natural way to do something, because I would imagine it's kind of difficult to sit down and just write lyrics like front to back.
I mean, I just try not to think about it too hard, to be perfectly honest. Because like if I'm writing and I'm getting into a place where I'm like, oh, well, or should the chorus be like this? Then I'm like, it's dead. It's dead in the water. Like it just has to come out right away. But I think having written a lot in general before that has just helped it make it easier to do that really quickly. And I really like to have a mix of like poetic lines, but then also really like grounded lines that feel like very much like a story. And then you said this, or then I took your jacket, or whatever. That's like very specific to kind of ground it a little. I had a creative writing professor who told me I used to write everything was so abstract that like I was the only person in the world who could possibly understand it. And I had this creative writing professor who was like, you're a really talented writer, but you need to like ground this somehow. And I was like, no, you suck. I hate you. Like I was like, I hate you so much. This class is so stupid. Now I'm like, okay, it makes sense. Like, I'm not 18 anymore, and I can be like, okay, but yeah, if I add a little bit of details, then I can make it relatable for other people and understandable, which is really important. Being accessible.
And I think that's what the core of a song like brings people value. It's like when you can relate to something.
Yeah.
I think like that is like probably where people are drawn to. Like if you were to pull people and say, oh, what are you drawn to in your music the most? I would imagine far more people than anything else. So they're like, oh, I can relate to this.
Yeah, that's really important to me. I know that I have lived a lot of experiences that are unrelatable just because I did a lot of really weird things in a lot of really weird places. So within that, I really try to make sure that even if I'm writing a song about being in Morocco, which is a song that we're working on right now, it's less about being in Morocco and it's more about like being scared in a new relationship, which is what that also was happening to me when I was in Morocco. So it's like I have that setting in my mind, but I want to make sure that the story I'm telling is something that anyone can relate to, because I wouldn't just make this for myself. Like I want people to relate to it. That's the most important thing to me.
Yeah, and it's good that you're honest about that. A lot of people will I feel like put on this farce in this front. Like, I only make music for myself.
No, I wouldn't even want to.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, I just don't want to do something that feels selfish. But that means the most thing to me in the world. I'm lost now. It means the most to me when someone is like, I related to that. Because that's what I would want. I want people to find like comfort or something in whatever I'm making.
Do you have like specific songs or any tracks off the project where people come back and they're like, oh, this one like I related to more than the other ones?
I've gotten good I've heard a lot about Fragile for sure. People relating to Fragile. Dream Girl. I've had some people talk about Dream Girl, which has surprised me. But I think with each new project, and Bloodlust, also Bloodlust.
Yeah.
But with each new project, I'm trying to be more vulnerable and more honest, and that can then, of course, be related to by more people. So I'm slowly, like, peeling away more layers that I've been using to kind of shield myself a little bit. But I think that the next project will be more relatable than any of the other ones.
Yeah. And I mean, kind of speaking on the EP a little bit, I don't know if you did you approach it with one central theme in mind? Because a lot of the project, I mean, this is my interpretation personally. Like listening to it, what I got out of it a lot was like it was like a narrative tale of like Maddie. And but I'd be interested to hear like what you guys thought of as like a central theme when you went into the project.
Yeah, it was very intentional. It's supposed to be one chronological night at a party.
Oh, okay.
And so it's kind of like the first one is kind of like a fantasy, like as you're thinking going to a party, like I'd like to run away with someone. Second one is seeing someone at the party, wanting to get their attention. Third one is flirting with them. Fourth one is like, which is Dream Girl. That one I guess is more personal to me, but it's about like creating like a facade of yourself to kind of shield yourself and be interesting to someone else without having to be vulnerable. So that's like, but it's like walking home and being like, oh, like I'm going home with you, but you don't really know me. So, but yeah, so it's supposed to definitely tell a narrative kind of story through a night.
Wow, that's super cool. I didn't even see, now that you say that, it makes like absolute sense to me. Now I'm piecing it all together in my head from like when you went into the project. Were those songs recorded at separate times, or did you sit down and record the project all together, or did you like go into it with the theme, or did it kind of come?
Yeah.
Sure. I'm gonna start this one. Okay. So we originally started the project with the envision of kind of 90s alt rock, and we had a 4-song vision. We completed it. We also, for major consistency, we did it all in one project. We have this project on the computer with probably about 300 tracks. So the entire EP is in there.
It took like an hour to open sometimes.
It was a big thing, but it was super consistent. But then we get it going, and then we get it like into DistroKid to like publish it, and then a couple weeks before we're about to publish it, Maddie was like, "This is not the direction." So we took it down and we cut a bunch of songs.
Okay, we cut 2 songs.
Okay, that's it. That's a bunch. And we remade. There's 3 songs on there that we
did at the last minute. Although one of them is essentially a remix of one of the other ones, but it's the same vocal tracks, but different instrumentation.
But I think through it, though sonically not as cohesive, I think emotionally and artistically, it is now a more cohesive piece of art because of making sure that each piece was just as it needs to be.
I think I cut a little deeper with the new ones too. Like I was being more distant, like lyrically, and I think with what I replaced them with, I cut more to the core of like what actually scares me. So I think, I mean, I know it was stressful and everyone was a little confused, but I am happier with the outcome of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a wall you have to break through creatively when you're writing something that's autobiographical.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I would imagine it's so hard to be like totally upfront and honest about your experiences when you're writing a song for other people.
Yeah. I like to scare myself. I think that's what I've done a lot of in my life.
I think that's good, yeah.
But I think this is, I mean, being vulnerable with people is like one of the scariest things. But it's easier for me the more people that are watching rather than less people watching. So as our audience has grown, I think that's also encouraged me to feel more comfortable sharing more. Like I feel really comfortable performing in front of a ton of people, but if there's like 5 people, I would hate that. So I don't know, as it grows, I feel more ready to be more honest.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of beauty that comes from that, because I feel like when you break down those walls and you can be more relatable and honest with your audience, you can really like people can get a lot out of that. Like I don't know, like Fragile, I got a lot out of that song, and I think it was because of the honesty of it and how raw I was, and that it's really just it feels genuine, like it's speaking from a place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a raw one. I think the next project is like every song is kind of almost, I think 4 out of the 5 songs are written in that zone.
Oh, cool.
So I'm excited. It's kind of scary, but I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you guys been writing a lot recently? Is the new project done, or are you still in the midst of making it?
It's in the process. We're just kind of starting the production. But I think everything's written. I like to do it all at once as much as possible.
Yeah.
And focus in on a theme, figure out a theme or a concept, and then dive into that. And I probably wrote like 20 songs and
Jeez.
like 5.
How much of a gap was there from when you put out the last project to when you started? Well, I imagine
writing
yeah.
like a week maybe. Yeah. Actually, no. You know what? I think I took like 2 weeks, which I know doesn't sound like any time, but for me that was a real breather. I was like, I'm not gonna think about it for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you somebody who goes stir crazy if you're not working all the time?
Yeah, absolutely. I have to be stimulated somehow at all times.
Yeah, I get that. I'm kind of the same way. If I'm not like actively working on something, I go insane because like if I don't have something to project my thoughts onto, then
The thoughts are just like
the thinking.
Yeah.
I want to ask you too about the song "To Win You" and then the Maddie's version of it. So what was the vision behind that? Because I know that's like it seems like that's almost
Whoa.
it seems that's almost like a sequel to something else that came before it, or what was the version of doing? What was the thought process behind doing the like Maddie's version of the song?
Well, I mean, they're both, so it's the same song as The Exhibitionist on the EP,
Yeah.
the same vocal tracks. So we had The Exhibitionist, and when I had this moment where I was like, I want to change lots of things about the EP, I wanted to be more personal with it, is what I realized. And The Exhibitionist, the song with the full band setup, it's a really fun song, and it's really catchy, and a lot of people on TikTok really love it.
And me.
Yes, yes, and it's really fun. But when I thought about it, I felt like the presentation of it didn't fully match the feeling of it that I really wanted to portray and how scary that feeling is. So I wanted to make a version of it that I felt like encapsulated that more. And by making it more stripped and making it mostly vocals, like almost there's I think more vocals than instruments. Honestly, it feels more like how I wanted to feel, really raw and really like exposed, I guess.
Yeah, I totally can see that. It's very much in your ear. Like it sounds like you're like right there singing because are there like a lot of vocal, I mean, not that I know anything about production, but it seems like there's a bunch of vocal layers on that song, right? Okay,
there's pretty much a lot of vocal layers on everything we do, but I think that's what's interesting because I showed it to my mom and she was like, oh, I like all those new vocals, and I was like, those are on the other version. You just wouldn't, you can't tell because there's so many other instruments, but we took all the vocals from the first track and then just made new instrumentation behind them, basically. But I think the human voice is like, it just hits different because it's like it's the most visceral thing, I think. So it's like you can portray so much emotion and vulnerability and passion through that by layering the voice that I think is just like, I don't know, it's just different.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. It's a lot easier to relate to a vocal line than it is a guitar riff or it is a drum fill. You know what I mean? Like, because when you hear something like that, it's like, wow, that's me. You can see yourself, and not that I can't, not that people can't see themselves in the guitar riff, because I feel like a lot of people can. Like, but whereas like that opposed to a vocal line, it's like, wow, like that could be me singing about these things.
Yeah, and that's what I really want. I want people to be able to project themselves and their own stories on all of this. Like, I have no concern at all about whether people know what I wrote it about. Like, I want people to have their own... I want to make music that is, like, the playlist for someone else's life. I want someone to connect with it and be like, this is that song that reminds me of that period of my life when I was in love with this person or whatever. So that's really important.
I love that. That's beautiful. So you mentioned your parents are musicians, right? Did you take a lot, like, or are they part of why you think you got so interested in music when you were young?
Yeah, so my dad's a musician. My mom recently started playing guitar, but my mom's a writer. So I think I kind of just mixed those two things together. My dad introduced me to music, like, as soon as I was born, basically. And my mom taught me a lot about writing. She really wanted... I mean, I think I liked writing a lot, and she gave me a lot of advice about that. I wrote a lot of stories and poems, all kinds of stuff when I was a kid. So definitely I think the natural thing from there was to mix them together, and I love both of them so much. Yeah,
that's super awesome. I always think that like people creatively take a lot from their parents. There's something really beautiful about that because it's like a direct pipeline, It's like you can see yourself in them and they can see yourself in you.
Yeah, they're really happy with me doing this, which is great.
So awesome.
My parents are my best friends. I talk to them about everything I'm doing in music. I ask them for advice every single step of the way.
Yeah, I know. We all have parents that kind of have done some music, or at least I know your dad has done guitar. What about you guys? Have your parents like done music at all? Is that why you kind of got into it?
No. Okay. But my
Thank you, Cameron.
Yeah, my dad had a vast CD collection that I got to before I could read, and I remember the first CD I basically stole from him was Bon Jovi's Greatest Hits. No, it was Bon Jovi's Dead or Alive.
It's a banger.
That's what it was. Yeah,
it's a banger.
Still one of my favorite albums. But
I'm
it
a
was
cowboy.
It was that album. It was really cool, and I remember it still had like red like slashes or something on it. I thought was really cool. So that's what was drawn to me about it. Yeah, I mean, I grew up listening to that. Like Smash Mouth, Fushi Mang. That's another one. Yeah.
Classics.
Yeah, so I mean,
Wait, what music did everyone grow up with?
Yeah.
well, I mean, like I took those CDs, but my parents at the time would like always listen to like classic R&B and like Motown on the radio and stuff. So like old school stuff.
Man, for me it was like a lot. It was like John Mayer and Fleetwood Mac.
Same.
Yeah, right. Like I've heard my mom would play Room for Squares and like Continuum all the time when I was little, and I only
Flawless album.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I didn't really appreciate it until I got older. But yeah, what about you guys?
I remember one time I was traveling with my parents to get a video game, and there's this one song came on the radio, and we had to just stop and listen to it. For a couple years, Hotel California was just like my song. As just a kid, I think that really influences me today.
Yeah.
So
That's so awesome.
My parents are really big No Doubt fans. They took me to No
Really?
Doubt concerts when I was
That's interesting.
definitely probably too small of a child to be at a No Doubt concert. No, but yeah, a lot of that's like the main one, but also a lot of like 90s music. I mean, they were like, that was their era. Some 80s music too, but a lot of like pop. I feel like, yeah, 90s and 80s pop, but also like Nirvana, stuff like that. Yeah.
I feel like my music taste is the most out of genre of the band. Like, I would listen to a lot of like indie rock, but like in high school, I would just troll SoundCloud for like the most disgusting dubstep, the worst sounding things.
No.
Because I'm kind of the opposite of Maddie. Like the vocals, I am purely an instrumentalist by myself. So I just think there's so much you can do sonically, especially with like production. Just the amount of sounds you can create has expanded. Hyperpop is such an awesome genre just because you hear things you've never heard before.
Are you super into hyperpop?
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
I love it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like hyperpop is what's so cool about it to me is like I feel like it is easily one of the most forthright and innovative things happening in music right now, which is what's
Definitely.
fascinating to me about it. When you listen to somebody like Eric DOA or like Glaive or even like Breakin's. Breakin's one of my favorite hyperpop artists, and I just love like the mix of like old classic 90s R&B sounds and like more electronic stuff. Like he puts a lot of almost like D&B sounds in his stuff. Also mixed like the modern production of hyperpop. I feel like it's just such a conglomerate of so many different things, and that's why it's so interesting to me.
It's amazing. There's so many sounds where I'm like, I have no idea how to describe what that sound is. I love this, but like I could, if someone asked me, I would not know where to start.
What have you guys all been listening to recently?
Oh, well, I've been listening. I've been listening a lot to, speaking of hyperpop, Charlie XCX's
Her new album, Crash?
Now. I started listening. Yeah, now I've been
the new
listening to
one
that
came
one, but I started listening to that a couple days ago. But until then, I was listening to How I'm Feeling Now.
Amazing
a lot.
project.
I love that album so
A.G.
much.
Cook's a genius.
Especially anytime I'm like in a mood, that's like what I just have to like play super loud and drive around with all the windows down and just like torment any like boomers that
Oh
are
my
driving
God,
past,
yeah.
basically.
She's a genius. I love Charlie.
Me too.
Her new the album the song Lightning off her new project. I've had that on been heavy in the rotation recently.
She's one of the first artists that I saw live when I was like in high school,
wow.
and I was like, I need to do that. That was like a formative moment for me, honestly.
I've heard like her. I've never seen her live, but I've seen videos and stuff, and her presence looks crazy.
She's amazing. No, that was like honestly a huge inspiration to me, wanting to get on stage and also wanting to like be engaging with the audience on stage because her presence is so strong.
Yeah. What about the rest of you guys? What have you been listening to recently?
I'll go first.
I lost my car a while ago, so I get rides from Maddie. So I also have been listening to Crash. My favorite song off Crash is Yuck.
Yeah, that's probably my second favorite song off the album.
Yeah, that was so fun.
I've been listening to a lot of Backseat Lovers. They are just, when it comes to
He's a big Backseat Lovers guy.
dude,
Yeah.
I mean, they, in terms of like how to arrange a band, like the most classic setup, right? 2 guitars, a bass, drums, vocalist. Like they just do it so well, and their lyrics, yeah, I just think they're an excellent top tier band.
Hell yeah.
So yeah.
Recently, I've been listening to Turnstile's "Glow On." I love that album. Absolutely love it.
Rashes.
Oh yeah, so cool. I love what they're doing with the new hardcore genre, and flipping it on its head, but still keeping that like hardcore, like punk feel, like in your face sort of thing. But like still, I think like kind of throw in some Latin influences with the rhythms and whatnot from what I hear, and I think that's really interesting. I actually don't really know a whole lot of Charlie. I don't think I know any songs or even what she looks like. But and also more recently, as in the past couple of days, a lot of Foo Fighters, R.I.P. Taylor.
Oh my god, dude.
That broke me, dude. Like
Me too,
I
brother.
found out and I was a mess.
I mean,
dude.
speaking, I'm a drummer as well, and Taylor was a gigantic influence on me.
Huge influence,
I just
yeah.
feel so awful, not only for his family, but for Dave, man. It's like
Yeah.
he lost his frontman as a drummer and his drummer as a frontman. Like, that's just absolutely terrible. And
Yeah.
no, Taylor, I feel like for a lot of drummers and a lot of musicians, he was just a massive influence, just his energy and what he contributed on stage to the Foo Fighters. And R.I.P., yeah, it's terrible.
100%.
Have you seen Turnstile live? 'Cause I really want to see them live.
I just missed them.
Yeah, so did I.
They were playing in San Francisco, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll get tickets, and I like totally forgot.
Same
And then
thing,
like all my friends were like, oh, so you're coming tonight? And I'm like, oh, I forgot to get tickets, and I went to go look them up. They were like, they used to be like $30, and then I looked them up the night of, and they were 200. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
no, and I was just like. I was actually here for a rehearsal, and I was just kind of being a bummer, but like I was like, I should have been there, you know.
What have you listened to?
No. That was like
yeah.
really
Charlie?
I
No,
drove
no.
around because his car
Yeah.
died.
Yeah.
So
My car died,
what
so.
I listened to.
That sucks,
I think it's
dude. Your car
what
died?
Connor's been.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had an EV, and like the battery just started going downhill, and it
It
cost
was
just
so
as much.
scary. It would just slip into neutral randomly, and you'd just
We
be like,
got caught out. We got caught out like just
scary.
SF like on a hill or just like in on 19th and like.
yeah. The time on 19th, I was like, this is how we die.
But you just gotta be calm. Like the car doesn't work. We're in neutral. We're parked. Like the hazards are on. They can't hit us. I mean, they shouldn't.
yeah, they still
They should. I mean, I hope they
Probably
don't.
should.
It's on them if they hit you at that point. Jeez. Damn. All right. Just wrapping things up. Last thing I think I really want to ask you guys: where, I don't want to say where do you see yourself, but where do you want to be in 5 years? What's your biggest goal for the upcoming years?
5 years.
Wow.
This is a funny question because for a long time I literally didn't live anywhere longer than like a month at a time
Wow.
for like a couple years. So people would be like, "Can you do this thing next month?" And I'm like, "Next month?" Like,
I want to be
you
in
know.
France.
Or people would be like, "Can you go to this concert in 6 months?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I don't have no idea where I'll be in 6 months." But I
Yeah.
think I'm growing up. I can think about that now. I don't know. I guess I'm bad at answering that kind of thing. But I think I've really lived a really blessed life overall. I've just done a lot of really cool things, and this is really cool, and I'm just really grateful for every single new part of it, and I have no idea where that's going to lead, honestly. I have goals, obviously, but at the same time, I think, like, I just feel really lucky to be doing it, and I would be really excited to see where it can go.
That's beautiful. Because I'm sure when you started, you could have never seen yourself where you are now.
No, honestly, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, guys, I appreciate you sitting down with me. This is a lot of fun. Great conversation.
Thank you so
Thanks for
much.
having
Thank you.
us.
Yeah,
Thank
tell
you,
everybody where
man.
they can find you, where they can stream your stuff, follow you on everything.
Yeah, we are Have. You can find us on all music streaming platforms through that name. And my Instagram is AngelDreamGirl777, and my TikTok is AngelDreamGirl. Those are new names because I was trying to get rid of a bunch of gross men and confuse them. And they're like, "Where did you go?" And I'm like, "I don't know who you are." Wrong person.
Just gotta gaslight them, you know.
Yeah, so that's where you can find us.
All right. Have everybody. Appreciate you
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Music matters.